Man, this is not going to be a popular video. And one of the reasons it's not going to be popular is because I don't plan on tapping into the tribal mentality and exploiting it. We all have this propensity or proclivity, whichever way you want to look at it, to pick a side, to take a team, to be against the other guy because that's the other guy. This is not a pro-Trump. This is not a pro-Biden. This isn't pro-Democrat. This isn't a pro-Republican video. This is pro what the frick is the truth, what's going on here, and how are the powers that be using our own nature against ourselves. And it is a nature. It's human nature to involve ourselves in the cult of personality. It is our human nature to drink the Kool-Aid, to go along, to get along, to compromise, to pacify others so that we can stay connected with other people, because that's the fundamental part of it. Is you become embroiled in and intertwined with a belief structure that identifies it with a particular people group, and that becomes your tribe. And the powers that shouldn't be, the psychological operators and the social engineers of this age, know exactly how it works. They know how to tap into it, and they know how to exploit it and squeeze out every bit of juice they can from that forbidden fruit, that forbidden fruit being the cult of personality. That they know that people like to put themselves and lock themselves in cognitive dissonance and an echo chamber, and they know how apt we are to fall prey to something like Stockholm syndrome, where we start feeling kind of bad for our captors. We feel bad for the people who are oppressing us, who are executing tyranny on us, and so we pick a team under that regime of tyranny, and we go for Biden, or we go for Trump, or we go for third party. This guy's our savior. He's going to save us. I don't agree with everything, but hey, I'm just going to pick the lesser of two evils. And so at the end of the day, what we find ourselves doing is choosing evil. And we've chosen evil because that's how the game is set up. That's how you play it. Those are the rules. The rules are you pick your guy, whether you believe everything that he says or not. Even if you disagree with things that you view as vile, you're still going to choose him, being vile himself, which does what to us? It brings us down to their level. It takes away our reputation, but because everybody else's reputation is at an all-time low, hey, we feel right at home, and we've normalized all this garbage. We've become profoundly sick. Like Krishnamurti said, it's no measure of good mental health to be considered well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So the society as a whole is profoundly sick. We've succumbed to incessant propaganda, and we voted for the lesser of two evils. We've all voted for evil, so we're all in the same boat together. So we can't all be bad, right? Well, the answer is we're bad. We're a mixture of bad and good. And the people who are really, really bad among us, we've chosen to give away our own power to. And now the few at the top control the many at the bottom. And it becomes an unseen hand, an unseen government, a shadow government, however you want to put this. That's the boat we're all in. So in this video, I hope to appeal on a factual basis, appeal to those of my friends who might consider me an enemy in MAGA, and those who consider themselves progressive, and those who consider themselves liberal or Democrat or Republican or whatever you consider yourself. Hey, consider this. We're all in the same boat together. And it doesn't seem to me that voting for the lesser of two evils is going to get us out of the tides and the waves and the ocean of tyranny that we're surrounded by. Because things keep getting worse, no matter if a Democrat's in the presidency, no matter if a Republican's sitting behind the desk at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So we're going to watch this. And while I remain critical of the Biden and Trump puppets of the world, I'm hoping that anybody who would lend an ear to and cast a vote for the Bidens and the Trumps and the Republicans and Democrats of this world may just sit back and go, whoa. Okay, it's at least a possibility that we have become corrupted, that we have become dehumanized, that we have become demoralized, that the social engineers and psychological operators of this world have brought us down to the level that they want us operating on so that they can stick it to us. That we voted for evil, that we voted for an evil person. So watch this right here. This is Fox and Friends in a recent interview with former President Donald Trump, asking if he would support the release of files related to 9/11, JFK, and Jeffrey Epstein. And watch when he comes to the issue of Jeffrey Epstein. It's very interesting. And of course, the people on the left are picking this apart. And I would contend rightly so, because why wouldn't you want all of this stuff exposed? Why wouldn't you want all the papers, all the documents, all the investigations on all these things exposed so the general public can make a determination on what the frick is actually going on instead of hiding it from all of us? Listen to this.
Some people think that one way to build trust is to declassify things that everyone's talking about. I know you talked earlier about, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. So if you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Yeah. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Now, before we get to that, listen to what he says about the JFK files.
Yeah.
Would you?
I did a lot of it.
So he declassified a lot of JFK files, but did you know that, and this right here is according to Reuters, and we have some documentation to prove what we're about to read here. Trump releases some JFK files, blocks others under pressure. A lot of people already know this on the left and the right. We're just going to rehash it. U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday ordered the unveiling of 2,800 documents related to the 1963 assassination of President John F. Kennedy, but yielded to pressure from who? Is this true? Could this be true that he yielded to pressure from the FBI and CIA to block the release of other records to be reviewed further? And if it's true that he did do this, why would he do this? Isn't it beneficial to Americans to show that the government can be trusted to become as transparent as possible? And if you have within your power to unveil all the records, why would you succumb to pressure from the FBI and CIA to hide some of those records? Why would the CIA and FBI want some of those records hidden from the American people? I'm not making any assertions here. I'm just asking a bunch of questions that I think need to be asked. And listen to this. Tell me if you think this sounds like a Congress who are supposed to be the representatives of the people. Does it sound like Congress is actually working for the good interests of the American people? Congress had ordered in 1992 that all remaining sealed files pertaining to the investigation into Kennedy's death should be fully open to the public through the National Archives in 25 years. Why not now? Why wait? What's really going on here? And that would have taken us to, back then, October 26, 2017, except for those the president authorized for further withholding. Why would a president withhold it? Why wouldn't Congress just expose it now? Why are they going to wait 25 years? Trump had confirmed on Saturday that he would allow for the release of the final batch of once classified records amounting to tens of thousands of pages, quote, subject to the receipt of further information. But as the deadline neared, so he promised that he would do this, the administration decided, and that's Trump's administration, decided at the last minute to stagger the final release over the next 180 days while government agencies studied whether any document should stay sealed or redacted. The law allows the president to keep material under wraps if it is determined that harm to intelligence operations, national defense, and they always use that as the excuse. No, we can't let the American people see that right there. It's going to jeopardize national defense. You don't want to jeopardize national defense. I mean, you want Americans to be as safe as they possibly can. Because if we do this right here, I know the American people want transparency, but what they don't realize is that if we make ourselves completely transparent, then we make them vulnerable to some kind of attack that we can't defend them from, of course. So the safety of the people, again, will always be the alibi of tyrants. Law enforcement or other conduct of foreign relations would outweigh the public's interest in full disclosure. They always say stuff like that. Always. More than 2,800 uncensored documents were posted immediately to the National Archives website on Thursday evening, a staggering, desperate cache that news outlets began pouring through, seeking new insights into a tragedy that has been endlessly dissected for decades by investigator scholars and conspiracy theorists. Yeah, so you're one of these if you don't fit the category of investigator and scholar. You're definitely one of those things, one of those guys. What a lot of people are keying in on is his waffling over the last thing, his hesitation. Listen.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others. Certainly about the way he died. It would be interesting to find out what happened there because that was a weird situation and the cameras didn't happen to be working, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I'd go a long way toward that one.
So a lot of waffling regarding the Epstein files. And what makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and we're going to watch some of this right here. I'm going to just go ahead and mute this a little bit. What makes a lot of people uncomfortable is the fact that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein hung out, apparently, according to some sources, quite a bit. But even if he just hung out with them one or two times, what does that kind of say about the character of this guy? Now, a lot of people can make the argument, hey, have you ever hung out with somebody that later you found out was a bad person, who's got a bad reputation, and they've got criminal activities and hung around criminal elements? Yeah, but how many times did I fly on their private plane? How many times did I hang out with them at these highfalutin parties? If you'll see right behind there, that right there is none other than Ghislaine Maxwell. And so they keep this all in the family. These aren't just a couple of episodes where they run into each other. Oh, hey, how you doing? I didn't know you were going to be at this party. This is stuff where, they hung out quite a bit. They shared intimate moments together, according to some. There are documents of boarding the plane. And yet you've got a lot of people that no matter what happens, they are going to back their guy, whether it's the left backing Biden for no freaking reason at all, whether it's MAGA Republicans backing Trump for no reason at all. What you're talking about here is the dehumanization of, in this case, Americans. Now, if you want just a partial list of why I am personally, objectively against Trump, he has shown himself clearly to be a tool of the international banking cartel. How do I know? Back in the 1990s, when he got upside down with Taj Mahal, a guy named Wilbur Ross worked for a company named, no, not kidding, no exaggeration, Rothschilds Inc. Rothschilds Inc. bailed out Donald Trump to the tune of $600 million. Some say as much as $1 to $2 billion. So now he's on the hook for Rothschilds Inc. And then what happens 25 years later when he becomes the president of the United States? Donald J. Trump makes Wilbur Ross, formerly of or currently of Rothschilds Inc., the Commerce Secretary. He makes Steve Mnuchin, who belonged to the banking cartel, the Treasury Secretary. Prior to being elected, years before being elected, Donald Trump said that he was for what is known as quantitative tightening. In other words, stop printing money out of thin air. That is good. Keep those interest rates high. That's good. But when he became president, mysteriously, he was for, rather than quantitative tightening, he became for quantitative easing. This is a 180-degree turn fiscally, economically, from what he was saying before he was president. And then all of a sudden, when he becomes president, when he takes the position behind the desk resolute at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, all of a sudden he's for quantitative easing. Go ahead, Federal Reserve, print as much money as you can. Lower interest rates. Make it easy to borrow money. Make credit easy for Americans to obtain. Let's just sink America into debt. By the way, there's another indicator that he's not working for America, because by the time he left the White House 4 years later, he plunged the world into, just on the books, $8.4 trillion of additional debt. That doesn't include the $6.2 trillion theft of Americans with the CARES Act. You remember that? Sat behind that desk and he said, I don't know, I've never signed anything with a T behind it before. I don't know, Mitch, maybe you're about to chicken out here. And everybody's laughing behind him before he gives the pen to Steve Mnuchin and his other banker buddies. That's objective. You objectively know that a puppet for the cartel is working for the cartel and against the American people if he devalues the money that you work for. If somebody devalues the money, that means they're tapping into and controlling and decreasing the value of the product of your time and laboring energies. That's not a friend. That's not make America great again. You can't devalue American currency and be making Americans and America great again. You're doing the exact opposite. You're making America worse and you're making Americans more poor. So when he signs that, it was supposed to be $2.2 trillion. He says it was $6.2 trillion. And that ridiculous piles of paper called the CARES Act right next to him as he's putting his fancy signature on the page. Nobody's reading through that. They know what it's all about. They know how much pork barrel spending is in there. They know that the lion's share of that's going to go to the bankers and the military industrial complex and to the pharma industrial complex, not to Americans. Another thing objectively that you can know, how you can know that Trump and Joe Biden are your enemies, is red flag laws. They both want red flag laws. They both want in some way to infringe on the Second Amendment. If anybody is infringing on your right to keep and bear arms, which shall not be infringed, they are your enemy. Donald Trump did it with red flag laws and bump stock bans, and Biden picked up the baton and he's for red flag laws as well. And as far as the bump stock bans, when you ban anything, you're criminalizing those who hold that object that was banned. So you're talking about at least hundreds of thousands of Americans who owned bump stocks. Those bump stocks are now banned. Donald Trump made those Americans criminals with the stroke of a pen. Another thing, so you got $8.4 trillion of debt in 4 years. You got $6.2 trillion for the CARES Act. You got red flag laws. He's for civil asset forfeiture, which means without charge, trial, due process of law, any government authority, FBI, CIA, local and state law enforcement agents can take your money, can take your house, can take your car if they suspect that it might be used to further the drug trade. That objectively shows you that Trump and Biden, who's also for civil asset forfeiture, Obama, to his credit, backed off a little bit on that, but that doesn't mean Obama is for us. Obama is just as much of a puppet as Biden, as Bush, as Donald Trump. And I know MAGA hates to hear this, but it's true and something you got to hear. More funding. Here's another objective indicator that Donald Trump is not on your side. More funding. I mean, way more funding for what Eisenhower warned about against the military industrial complex. When you have a strong military industrial complex, you have a weak America, because you have a whole bunch of money going for a whole bunch of nonsense that Americans are not supporting. How about another thing, another objective piece to show you objectively that Trump is against Americans, is not for Americans? He wants to federally indemnify. In other words, add another layer onto the qualified immunity that law enforcement agents all across this country already enjoy. We've already seen how they abuse their power. Power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Power actually attracts the corruptible. Who do you expect that wants the ring of power so they can rule over others? The corruptible among us. And he wants to add another layer of immunity on top of qualified immunity. So this is just a couple of things. I haven't even mentioned that he wanted to he said during the campaign trail on the debate stage that he wanted to put Hillary Clinton in jail. And right after he became the president, right after the inauguration, during the inauguration banquet, he said that he's honored to be in the presence of Bill and Hillary Clinton and said, quote, "I got a lot of respect for those two." Does that sound like somebody who's on your side? Not to mention that he already admitted that he's the one who closed down America. He's the one that already called himself the father of the VAXX. He's the one that admitted that he is a longtime friend of the respected Henry Kissinger. He's got nothing but good things to say about Klaus, eat the bugs, you'll own nothing and be happy Schwab. He's the guy who's endorsing all that stuff. And that's just for starters, guys. That's just off the top of my head. This is what Trump's all about. This is what Biden's all about. Do you think Biden has any bad words to say about Hillary and Bill Clinton? No. Do you think Biden is against red flag laws, which are absolutely anti-Second Amendment? No. Do you think Biden is against civil asset forfeiture? No. Do you think Biden is going to reduce or increase the national debt? You already know the answer to the question, because every president throughout history after 1913 has done just that, except for, I think, one. I can't remember which one it was, but there was only one who didn't increase the national debt and left office with a surplus. So everything that Trump is for, and I'm talking about substantive things that are substantial. There's a lot of people who pick on all this frivolous stuff like, no, he's a criminal because he falsified his own business records. Really? Is that really where you're going to go with this? You want this guy in jail on 34 felony counts of fixing his own books in his own private business? You really want to go there with that? You don't want to talk about all the bombings. That's another thing we didn't talk about. 46 bombs are dropped or detonated or launched every single day in the name of the American taxpayer. And it increased under Trump after Obama left office. Biden's bombing, Trump's bombing, Obama bombed, Bush bombed. Everybody's bombing. Why? Because bombing is big business. You're talking about just a regular Tomahawk missile costs over $2 million, $2 million taxpayer dollars. Of course, they're incentivized to launch as many of those as possible. Ka-ching, man. So please don't take this as me buying into the left versus right paradigm lie, because that's all it is. It's a lie. It's a deception. Politics is the clever and deceptive art of using euphemisms, lies, emotionalism, and fear-mongering in order to dupe average people into accepting and demanding the chains of their own enslavement. If you are drinking the cult of personality Kool-Aid, please wake up. I don't care if you're on the left side. I don't care if you're on the right side. Now, I know it's popular and I know it generates a lot of clicks and a lot of response and a lot of engagement when you foster the left versus right paradigm lie, when you buy into the political divide, the dog and pony show, the smoke and mirrors under the big top. And a lot of these people get, whether you're on the left or the right, they get a lot of views and make a lot of money, because being controversial, especially in the political realm, is something that is very, very popular. It's accepted. It's demanded, because they tap into something very easy. It's the tribal mentality. It's this idea where we have to identify with a certain people group, and then we put ourselves into a box. So you've got this guy, he's just now coming on the scene, and I covered this the other day. It was a recommended video in my list, and it's called Tennessee Brando, I think. He's decidedly left, and he's always bashing the right and saying stupid things like this.
Now is not the time to be neutral. Now's not the time to be sitting on the fence. Now's not the time to be sitting one out in hopes that it'll get better later. The only clear choice for democracy is Joe Biden. Because you got to ask yourself, do you really think he's going to stand in the way of your democracy?
I want people to stand in my way of democracy. If the founding fathers were right, democracy is two wolves and a lamb deciding on what to have for dinner, and I don't want to be dinner. Therefore, I don't want to be democracy. Now, propaganda wants to push that, no, democracy is something you need to protect. And the only way you can protect it is by going to the voting booth and choosing the lesser of two evils. And if you don't do it, we're going down, man. I know that's the scare tactic. That's the propaganda campaign. That's what the social engineers want you to believe. But then you have the right. This is Brandon Tatum.
to next week, 100% of the proceeds will go directly to Donald Trump. We will donate it. We'll keep it up on the screen. We'll keep a tally of it so you know exactly what's going on. We'll show you real time. So if you get anything of Trump, 100% of proceeds will go directly to the Trump campaign from this point all the way to the end.
So he is going to give a large amount of money, and already has given money, from what I understand, to the Trump campaign. So that while Tennessee Brandon is like, the only hope for our country is Joe Biden, Brandon Tatum is saying the only hope for our country is Donald Trump. Brian Tyler Cohen, decidedly a leftist. We got to do everything that we can to keep Trump out of office. Whatever we can do, we got to do it.
We should always act as if Donald Trump is up by 25 points.
Always.
That means we keep organizing, we keep working on our circles of people, we keep spreading good information about what this administration has done that the media refuses to cover. And we don't get complacent because we get a good poll, and we don't give up in despair because we see a bad poll. This is all noise.
Got to do the work. Got to go to the poll. Got to pull that lever and push that button and write down on paper the parasitic puppet that you want controlling the rest of us. That's the left again. And here's the right again. Of course, you know what Ben Shapiro is going to say. Ben Shapiro's like, man, anything but Biden. Who else is in this act? This dog and pony show? Of course, it's Alex Jones.
I just want to fucking stop these people. They gotta be stopped.
They got to be stopped. And the only way we can stop it is to cast our vote for Trump, is what AJ is saying. Now, for me, observing people participating in the political process and begging others to vote for their guy is a lot like watching children during one of those puppet shows who believe that their favorite puppet animates itself and couldn't possibly have an unseen hand shoved up its ass. Because here's the deal. Why do puppeteers hide behind the stage? Why do they hide behind the curtain? Because they don't want to ruin the show for the audience. Because once you know what the reality is, nobody wants to go to the puppet show. Once you see the fact that, hey, it's not actually the puppets who are entertaining me. It's the guy with his hand inside the puppet animating everything. And I've kind of been deceived here. Puppet shows are deceiving. Political puppet shows are deceiving. Because they get people to believe that this guy right here is going to fix the economy. He's going to lower inflation. He's going to make my dollar more powerful so that I can have more buying power. So I can buy more and accumulate more stuff. He's going to make my life easier. That's what Tennessee Brando wants you to think. That's what Brandon Tatum wants you to think. That's what Candace Owens wants you to think. That's what Brian Tyler Cohen wants you to think. That's what Ben Shapiro wants you to think. That's what AJ wants you to think. And that's what Patrick Bet-David and all the rest want you to think. Everybody who's saying, dude, this is the most important election in our lifetime. You got to get out there and vote your conscience. Well, in voting your conscience, you're letting the powers that shouldn't be know that their plan is working just fine and they're keeping you in the plantation loop. And you will never get out of that plantation loop unless you step back and you understand, wait, my tribal instincts have been exploited. And maybe it'd be a good idea for me to question myself, my life trajectory, and try to find my humanity again, because distract, deceive, divide, and conquer is true, but they do more than that. They do more than distract and deceive. They dehumanize and demoralize you. You've been demoralized when you have been reduced to choosing evil. Lesser of two evils, but still evil. Again, this isn't going to be a popular video. Ain't nobody going to be sharing this because everybody wants to be comfortable in their own lie. Everybody wants their own cultic superhero. Oh my gosh, Brando's great. Brandon Tatum's great. Brian Tyler Cohen's great. I love Ben Shapiro. Are you kidding me? Alex Jones has done so much for this country. Patrick Bet-David, how can you beat his knowledge and his articulation? So now we got a whole mass of people drinking the Kool-Aid, cementing themselves in cognitive dissonance, locking themselves on a never-ending plantation cycle of the cult of personality, and slamming the door behind them as they enter forever, it seems, their echo chamber. What's the solution? The solution is first to step back and understand what's going on, to awaken. And then the next thing is to find out alternative ways that we can build a parallel alternative economies as far as currency, food, fresh water, lifestyle. If you want true prosperity, you have to, number one, and there's a lot of work involved in this, guys, but there is a blueprint. You have to, number one, have a sound money system, a sound economy. Do you realize every single currency throughout human history has failed, not 20% of the time, not 80% of the time, not even 99.99% of the time. Every single currency in human history has failed 100% of the time. Why? Because it becomes dishonest, unsound, and infinite. And when you have an infinite money supply based on cheap, easy credit, whether it's coin clipping or printing bills out or putting ones and zeros in people's bank accounts, you are actually tapping into, and whoever has that control, like Amschel Rothschild said, give me control over a nation's money and I care not who makes its laws. Whoever has control over those bank accounts, those zeros and ones in bank accounts, or that fiat currency or the coin clipping, those are the people who control your time and your labor. And when you control the time and laboring energies of individuals, you control the entire monopoly board. If you disagree with anything I said in this video, if you want to vent your frustrations at me or whatever, I don't care what it is. Let's just get a honest conversation started here. There are criminals in politics, but those criminals are puppets. The true people beyond the curtain need to be brought from behind the curtain, dragged up from under the stage, and probably, maybe a good idea, to try them, to charge them, and to at least imprison them for life for destroying so many lives. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. If you want to support the channel further, grab a shirt, become a channel member, but more importantly, know what your rights are, know what freedom is, and realize that it's a strong possibility that you and I have been deceived. I'll see you in the next video.